I wanted to talk about meditation, superfoods, ASMR, and the pineal gland, and how these things are all interrelated, and what I've found to be my experience in regards to all this. So, the first most important thing that I felt was these superfoods like chlorella, spirulina, blue-green algae, cacao or cocoa, but the real kind, the 100% not mixed with any of the sugar. Obviously, I'm not talking about the candy bars. I find that when in the morning when we're empty, if I drink water with some maybe magnesium, some whatever powders like blue-green algae powder or phytoplankton, I give myself half an hour, and you're hungry. And a really good experiment, especially after fasting also, is to put in some of these superfoods and see the difference, and see how they actually rejuvenate, revitalize, and give your consciousness energy. To see the difference in your meditation, that they can actually help you to deepen your own experience of yourself, to go a little bit further than you otherwise could. Because even though, yes, consciousness is ultimately non-local, it exists beyond the body, and there are many realms of existence. Even though that's the case, we are in this body. We're here and we're living this life, and our human self is bound by these things. So because of that, it is important to have a good relationship with this body, because it will help lay a good foundation for further spiritual progress to take place. So, when we are looking at videos about decalcifying the pineal gland, or reading about what kind of foods decalcify it, instead of thinking about something in the brain actually decalcifying, which is happening, I feel rather on an energetic level, what's happening is a lot of cleaning is taking place, a lot of energetic cleaning. These foods, all plants, they're alive, and from what I've heard, that they carry their own consciousness. They can mix with our consciousness. In fact, if you're sensitive, and even just by taking a barefoot walk in nature or hugging a tree, you can feel a difference in your energy. By tuning into the sound of these cicadas and crickets. So it's difficult because our stomachs are used to the same old food that we've been eating, but it can change. We just need to slowly begin to introduce these superfoods on an empty stomach, and the cleaning begins. If we eating them after a meal or with a meal, it doesn't have the same effect, I found. It's completely different, not as potent. Everything is mixed, but when we put it in, when we're empty, that's when the magic happens. In fact, I would say put it in when you're empty, and give yourself 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to feel and experiment, and feel the energy of consciousness. Not just as an energy of consciousness, but as your very self. That is what you are. And over time, as the enzymes in your stomach change, as the bacteria change, as the new bacteria is introduced, and the old bacteria that consumes all the dead flesh and the meat and the processed foods is given less, that old bacteria dies out, and a change happens inside. You're going to begin to crave the superfoods, the fresh fruit, the berries, the vegetables, the smoothies and juices. We're going to start craving those because they fuel our consciousness, they give us vibrancy. And now we have a point of reference where we can compare how we felt before and how we feel now. The times, especially in the beginning, where we do succumb to the cravings and go back, it's very obvious that it's not healthy and it brings our energy down. It's just before we didn't know it because we had nothing in reference to a higher vibrance. So everything is interconnected, and especially for those of us that aren't the yogis living in the Himalayan mountains, for those of us that have a job, that are married or have kids and are actually very engaged in the life, one, it's very important to have time just to ourselves, I feel, because when we have time to ourselves, we can approach the things in our life from a much healthier place, from a much more vibrant place. And the relationship with our pairs and the people in our lives becomes enhanced, and both parties can benefit. It's not about, a lot of people like to talk about and tell others what they do, what they experience, and too directly and too almost aggressively. If we find someone that is a match vibrationally, of course we can talk to them about these things. Whether it's someone that does astral projection like we do, or someone that's really into the healthy eating, or whatever it may be, we can connect with those people. But for those who are less conscious, still living in the human mind, the human personality, I feel that the only way is to simply be oneself, and that not only sets the example, but your very energy will touch those who have a place inside that's ready to receive, not verbally, energetically, and not like you know how to do this. That's for the spiritual masters that transmit consciousness and all sorts of deep states. But just to be yourself, I feel, is enough, because the people that I'm around in my job and in the new family that I have, I can already see a change that takes place. They begin to learn from your silence, from your presence, from your peace, from the way you live, from the way you don't succumb to lower tendencies, to lower habits. So eat that raw cocoa and all the superfoods and feel the buzz.